wanted to shout out to all of you as taxpayers who live in the Coast Community College District, because it was the bond measure that allowed us to build this. Today we are going to hear a lot about a sustainable future for Orange County and how all of you and us are a part of that. I want to start by stating the obvious. Climate change, as all of you in this room know, is a threat to the health and well-being of every person on this planet. Orange County is no exception. We live in a beautiful paradise and we want to keep it that way. We're experiencing a severe drought and record high temperatures. As you can see, I'm even melting here today. The heat wave earlier this month was brutal, and now we're in a next phase. Multiple wildfires struck us this year. I want to thank the Orange County Fire Authority for being here today. A tropical storm was brewing off our coast just a few weeks ago, and they were talking about hurricanes, and it wasn't the Hurricane Katrina. These conditions are only going to get worse unless we take immediate action. And the sense of urgency that I know that many of you in this room have and that my team has is real. Climate change also intersects with other environmental crises, like biodiversity loss, air and water pollution, deforestation, and excessive waste. These challenges threaten the health and security of our economy, our communities, and our children. And they threaten our disadvantaged populations most of all. The science is clear. We must limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. And if you're not a scientist in the room, that may not even, you can't even comprehend what that means. So we have a lot of experts who are going to share with us today. And it's 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050, ideally sooner. If we want to avoid irreversible damages, we must drastically reduce our environmental footprint by cutting down on plastic, food waste, toxic chemicals, and more. The change before us is a daunting task, but we can do it, and it's necessary. We also have an opportunity before us, an opportunity to come out better than before. Better, stronger, and healthier for all of our residents. Let me provide you with some examples. When we make our houses more energy efficient, we reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce the cost for electricity, which helps residents reduce their household costs every month. It also helps our public agencies and our businesses to save money. When we buy local products, we reduce waste and we support our local small businesses that drive our economy. 95% of businesses in Orange County are small businesses that are family-owned. So we're supporting families. When we create more green spaces in our neighborhoods, we lower temperatures. It's better to have more green space than more concrete, and provide an area for our children to play and explore. Our quality of life is better. When we invest in public transit, we reduce pollution and make it easier to get around faster, especially as we look at alternative fuels and energy for our public transportation. The examples go on. I want Orange County to seize these benefits, and that is why, as your county supervisor, my office has initiated a climate action plan for Orange County. I've led the response to last year's oil spill, introduced a styrofoam ban to the Board of Supervisors, and advocated for zero-emission transit, as well as changing out our fleet at the county. And now my office is working on creating Orange County's first climate action plan, which will provide recommendations to how the county can achieve net zero operations. This summit today is intended to help us craft that plan with the recommendations from our amazing panelists. Federal action like the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, and the Inflation Reduction Act open the door to more work. I'm investigating how we can leverage these unprecedented levels of funding for climate action, resilience, and economic development. I recently had the opportunity to meet with the Secretary of Energy at the IBEW training offices with Congresswoman Katie Porter, and I can tell you there are so many resources available. With these challenges and opportunities before us, I wanted to host an event where Orange County's environmental leaders and concerned citizens could come together and learn from one another. I hope that today's Sustainability Summit gives all of us a better idea of where we stand, where we're heading. I also hope we generate lots of ideas about what the county and I, as your supervisor, can do to safeguard our future. So here's the roadmap for what we're going to present today. We'll have 3 panels featuring local academics, public officials, and more. They'll give their insight on sustainability specific to Orange County. Panel 1 will discuss where Orange County is, where Orange County sits as it comes to climate action and sustainability, what our county government, cities, and communities can do more to make our community more sustainable. Panel 2 will feature experts who will each speak to the threat that Orange County faces as a result of climate change and other environmental crises. These threats include wildfire. We'll have expert testimony from our fire authority. Coastal erosion. We'll have a UCI engineer scientist speaking. Drought, adverse health conditions, and biodiversity loss. Our panelists will also discuss how we can be more resilient to these threats. And panel 3 will focus on opportunities specifically related to building a green economy and ensuring environmental equity. In this panel, we'll hear from people who will talk to us about how they took their business, like Ecos, which makes sustainable cleaning products, non-toxic. And not only are the products non-toxic, but they took their entire plant and all their operations down to basically a zero waste. So there are lots of examples out there for businesses. We just got to spread the word so we can all join in. We will also have keynote addresses from 4 elected officials who are true environmental champions. This morning, we will have a welcome from our Assemblywoman Cottie Petrie-Norris, who serves this area. It'll be by video because she's in Sacramento. And then we have the pleasure of our presence of Senator Dave Menn. Where you go? There he is. He will give some comments. Congressman Mike Levin and Congresswoman Katie Porter later in the day. They will all speak in between each of the panels. We'll have a break between our first and second panels, and then lunch between our second and third. And let me tell you, I'm very excited to showcase our culinary arts program right here at Orange Coast College. They are providing the lunch for all of you. During this time, please eat, first of all, keep your energy up, which is something my team always reminds me to do, because I never do. Second, stop by the booths. We have a lot of great booths in the lobby that will provide you with a lot of information about how to green up your business, your home, your community, your city. And they also have a lot of information about what they're doing in Orange County and how you can get involved. And there's going to be a fun area, which if you're kind of wonky like I am, then it's fun. But it'll be a panel where we'll have poster boards up, and you can give us ideas that we will collect throughout the day. Just write your idea on the poster board in the lobby. It's right near the check-in table. Additionally, this event is being recorded, and the recording will be available on our website. We're also, I believe, are we streaming live or no? No, okay, we're not streaming live, but we're recorded. If you could not make it today in person, then I hope you'll enjoy the discussion. And for those who aren't here in person, please email us your ideas for what we can do to be a more sustainable Orange County. So I want to thank everyone, especially our panelists, our keynote speakers, and for everyone who has come out today. We had a maximum capacity of 125, and what we expect to happen throughout the day is people to come in and out. We had 100 people register, and we have a lot of students that we know are going to be coming in and out throughout the day. So excited to share. So with that, we will move to our Assemblywoman Cottie Petrie-Norris to deliver our welcome. And I will say that Cottie has been a champion as it relates to sea level rise and protecting our coast. And she and I, as well as Mayor Carr, Senator Min, and our entire county team worked tirelessly to respond quickly to the oil spill and to have great success. So is there a way to dim the light so we can see her better? There we go. Cottie.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Orange County Sustainability Summit. I am Assemblywoman Cottie Petrie-Norris. It's an absolute pleasure to join you this morning, and I want to say a huge thank you to you, Supervisor Foley, for convening us today and for your focus and your leadership as we confront the climate crisis. The climate crisis, as we all know, is real, it is now, and it is urgent. It really is the fundamental challenge facing our generation. We are seeing the devastating impacts of the climate crisis right here in California with severe drought, destructive flooding. We've seen our state ravaged by deadly and tragic wildfires. Climate change is not merely an inconvenient truth. It is fundamentally disruptive to our economy, our communities, and our way of life. Recognizing the urgency of this challenge, California is and has been a global leader on climate action. And in the Assembly, I am working to accelerate our transition to clean energy, working to incentivize clean energy investments. Because just getting California to net zero is important, but it's not nearly enough. I want California to be the birthplace for the next generation of breakthrough innovations that will enable us to tackle the climate crisis and enable not just California to hit our clean energy goals and our climate goals, but the entire planet. It's critical for California and it's critical for our planet. That's why I've championed legislation to incentivize investment in the research and development activities that are so vital for us to develop these new technologies. And as we work to achieve our climate goals, as we work to deliver these exciting innovations and breakthroughs, we must also safeguard California. We've got to develop strategies to adapt to climate change and strategies to mitigate the impacts. And that's why I have authored legislation to protect our California coast from the threat of sea level rise, to protect our homes and our communities. And that's why also this year, I was proud to support and to champion historic investments in California's budget. We enacted a $54 billion climate resilience package as part of this year's budget to better prepare Southern California, Orange County, and our entire state for drought, extreme heat, wildfires, and sea level rise. I'm also working as chair of the Assembly's Accountability Committee to ensure that these historic investments yield historic results for our state. In closing, I just want to say another thank you to Supervisor Foley and to so many of the panelists here for your partnership and your leadership. And Supervisor Foley was really proud to work with you as we've responded over the course of the last year to the really devastating Orange County oil spill that occurred just 1 year ago. As we committed to the citizens of Orange County, we committed that we were going to get to the bottom of the disaster, that we would hold the polluters and the responsible party to account, and that we would ensure that a disaster like this does not occur again on our watch. And we've made good on many of those commitments and are continuing to work to ensure that we do not see a disaster like that unfold here in Orange County. With that, welcome. Looking forward to an incredibly exciting agenda and a really rich discussion as we move through this morning's activities and this morning's panels. Thank you again, everyone, and welcome to the Orange County Sustainability Summit.
You know, some of us have been working on this issue here in Orange County for a long time. I don't know if any of you know, but Costa Mesa is a LEED certified city internationally. Because of our climate action planning and the types of buildings that we have, the sustainability that our private partners have embraced is what helps us to have that rating. And that didn't happen overnight. You know, that was from years and years of really prioritizing these issues. And somebody who's also a champion for these issues is our state senator, Dave Min. Dave has been working tirelessly on these issues at the state level, and I know he's going to share with you a lot about that. He's been in office only 2 years and making a big difference. So thank you, Dave. Come on in.
Thank you, Supervisor Foley. I kind of wish I'd done a video address so I could be a large. My name is Dave Min. I have the privilege of representing the 37th Senate District in the California Legislature. And that includes the city of Costa Mesa, my home city of Irvine, cities like Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, Lake Forest.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm loud, so I think you guys can hear me anyways. But,
yes.
Anaheim Hills, Orange, and other. And since joining the state senate in 2020, addressing climate change has been a top priority of mine. It's just,
hold on, let's get this fixed here.
Thank you.
There you go.
And as the Assemblywoman mentioned, we're doing some incredible, is this off now? No. We're doing some incredible things in the California legislature. I was proud to support the governor's historic climate package, as well as the 2 key plastics recycling bills this year. And those were tough votes. There were, I think, several of those bills passed with a 1 or 2 vote margin. A lot of Democrats stayed off those bills or voted against them. But I believe that what we're doing here in California is transformative, and we will continue to position California as a global leader on sustainability. Now, before I get into what we're doing specifically and what I'm doing, I just want to talk about the stakes for our civilization and climate change. We are facing incredible challenges, and as the Assemblywoman mentioned, there's an urgency of this moment. We have to act. And it's important that we are clear-eyed about the challenges, the risks, the dangers that climate change poses. 2021 was the 6th hottest year in recorded history. 2022 so far has been the 2nd hottest. We are facing, of course, around the globe, tsunamis, hurricanes, extended droughts, wildfires, and these are on historic scales. They are burning hotter. They are flooding more tremendously than ever before. But I want to point out something that often gets overlooked in the climate crisis debate, and that is to say that 2021 and 2022 actually are going to be 2 of the coolest years on record 100 years from now. That is to say, when we look back in the 2100s, we're going to say that 2021 and 2022 were uniquely benign, that the weather events we experienced were uniquely benign. We're going to look back and say those were the good old days. And no matter what we do today, even if we get carbon emissions down to 0 today, our children and grandchildren are going to look back at this year and last year as ones that really were, again, very cool, very benign. Even if we get everything down to 0 right now, we're going to face transformative challenges for our civilization, for our economy. Climate change is, the hurricanes, the wildfires, the heat waves, the droughts that we're now facing, they're going to look very mild. We're going to face biblical level events in 100 years, and that's if we do nothing. Climate change is transforming our planet. We're seeing clean drinking water become scarcer and scarcer. Arable farmland is becoming scarcer and scarcer. Places that have long been inhabitable, including the birthplaces of civilization, the cradles of civilization, are becoming more and more uninhabitable, and probably by the time that I'm 80, 90, if I live that long, we're going to expect to see lots of those places become uninhabitable. Now, we often talk about the tipping point in climate science, but if we're being honest with ourselves, we're already past that point. According to the IPCC, even under the best case scenarios where we immediately reduce carbon emissions as much as feasibly possible, we're going to have historic impacts on our way of life. If we don't actually act right now in a way that reflects the urgency and imperative of the moment, we're going to be facing something like a 10-degree average increase Fahrenheit in the next 100 years. 10 degrees average. That means the planet would be hotter than at any point in human civilization. It's not been this hot since the Pliocene era, before human beings came along. It's unclear if this is something that is sustainable for us as a civilization. And so unless we change course right now, we are damning our kids, grandkids, and beyond to hell on earth. Our future progeny will experience heat waves that regularly reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. They'll face more and more severe hurricanes, wildfires, tornadoes, droughts, and extreme temperature spikes that again will look very biblical. And I'm saying this not to be a downer, but just to talk about the stakes and why it is so urgent and why I have taken the risks of voting for every climate bill that's crossed my desk, despite the fact that these are not always popular. These are not always easy votes. Because I can't look my children, I've got my son in the back somewhere, he's reading a book, I can't look him in the eye in 10 years and say, your dad was in a position to try to affect change and did not because of political considerations. We have a moral obligation. Now, the good news, and I know here's where we switch, right, is that I think we're on the cusp of major scientific and technological breakthroughs that are fundamentally going to change our economy, works, and transition us from fossil fuels to renewable sources of energy. We know about solar, wind, hydroelectric. They're coming online rapidly across the world. We hit a moment this year where renewables actually outpace demand, and we're accelerating the adoption of renewable sources of energy. We have potentially transformative technological changes on the horizon, including clean nuclear fusion, that potentially, we have a company right here in my district in Lake Forest in the Canyon, Tri-Alpha Energies, based on the research of UCI scientists, that potentially could provide zero radioactive byproducts, clean fusion, that could be transformative as we try to create renewable sources of energy. Zero emissions cars, buses, trucks, and trains are going to be a mainstay of our transportation infrastructure in the next 10 years. We'll start to see zero emissions airplanes come online, I believe, in the next 25 years in a major way. Industries that have long relied on fossil fuels like cement, home building, I think will continue to transition to zero emissions. But the challenge we have right now is that we don't have the time for these things to happen naturally. It took nearly 30 years for the fossil fuel powered car to displace the horse and buggy. We don't have 30 years right now. We've got to react and act very purposefully and aggressively, but we're not yet at a point where we can just flip a switch and move to a zero emissions economy. Now, earlier this year, I was asked, like my fellow colleagues in the legislature, to vote on the Diablo Canyon nuclear fission extension. Now, of course, I have some issues with nuclear fission, including the byproducts, the fact that we don't know what to do with those byproducts, there's no place to store them safely, and they pose a risk to our coastline. But I voted for that bill, but as part of that process, I asked the governor's office, why do we keep facing these challenges in energy shortages? Because we were told we had to vote for this or we'd face blackouts starting potentially this year. And what they told us is that the roadblocks where we didn't have enough renewable energy sources, we didn't have enough electrical transmission grid investment, and we didn't have enough storage. So we negotiated $5.1 billion in new investments in renewables and electrical transmission investments as part of that vote, my vote and other votes for that Diablo Canyon extensions. But that's not going to be enough. We need to do some more on storage as well. And storage here is going to be about technology. Simply put, battery technology right now is not enough. It's not feasible for energy storage needs. If you talk to folks that are in the know, they'll tell you that if we take all the known lithium in the world, it is enough to create batteries to store 1/3 of 1 day of our energy storage needs across this planet. So we're going to need some transformative technology changes. There's lots of exciting stuff happening. You may have read that UC Irvine is doing some stuff in organic batteries. Stuff, it sounds like Back to the Future, kind of wave of the future type stuff. We're doing incredible stuff with hydrogen storage, hydro pump storage. There's a lot of new types of investments happening, but I think we're going to have to keep pushing along those lines if we want to reach our zero emissions goals. Now, part of what we did this year in voting for the governor's climate package was we formalized the governor's executive order to declare that 2045 we had to require zero emissions by that point. We also passed some important interim goals, including a zero emissions requirement for electricity providers by 2035. So I know there's some intense debates going on around CCAs versus utilities. They will all be required to be zero emissions by 2035 under the law that the governor just signed. But I believe that mandates and requirements, while important, are not enough. If we're going to reach our climate goals, we need the power of private capital, the power of innovation, and this is a place where California has always led. And so since joining the Senate in 2020, I have been an outspoken proponent of the need to invest more public dollars in things like direct research and development, in tax credits, in incubators, in public-private partnerships so that we can unleash private innovation to address the problem of climate change and accelerate both the research and development but also the adoption of some of the products that are going to get us to zero emissions. We can mandate zero emissions as much as we want, but if we can't meet our energy requirements without resorting to fossil fuels, those mandates are going to be useless. And the only way to do that is through innovation. I believe California has a key role to play in this process. I think Orange County is an ideal place for this all to happen. We have a burgeoning knowledge economy. We have an abundance of leading climate scientists and research coming out of UCI and other local institutions like Chapman and CSU Fullerton. We have a strong and robust financing infrastructure in place. And I think we have all the ingredients for Orange County to be the hub of green innovation going forward. We've got companies like TAE, which I mentioned, Rivian, so many others, and I think you're going to hear from some of them today. My hope is that we can make Orange County something like a green Silicon Valley going forward, and not only address our own challenges here in the state, but also create exportable technologies that will transform the world and get us to a zero emissions economy as quickly as possible. And that's why some of my top priorities since coming to the legislature, both in legislation and in the budget, have been around this vision. I fought for more tax credits along with the Assemblywoman. I fought for direct R&D, and we had some modest investments this year, but we'll continue to push the governor to do more, the legislature to do more. I'm proud to have brought back $35 million to fight wildfires, because we know that that's a major source of carbon emissions going forward. To help our firefighters, both the OCFA and CAL FIRE. I'm proud to have brought back $5 million to fund the Orange County Sustainability Decathlon, which is going to take place not too far from here at the fairgrounds. And that's going to bring in leading scientists and engineers from around the world to compete, to design, develop, and build zero-emissions solar-powered homes. And I'm told this will be a major tourist draw for Orange County, but I'm also hopeful that this will create innovation, scalable innovation that we can use to get our home building to zero emissions as quickly as possible. So I want to thank Supervisor Foley again, the Orange County Board of Supervisors for putting on today's event. I hope we can use this event as an opportunity, a springboard, to create dialogue.
In the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at UC Irvine. She specializes in the interplay between fungal ecology and global climate change. She's also...
Oh, my mic is dead, so can I take it off? Okay. I was wondering. Yeah, it's fine. Sorry, we're good at pivoting, we've got a lot of flexibility. Okay. She's also an environmental activist, having founded the group OC Clean Power and advocated for community choice energy across Orange County. Actually, I first met you at a Irvine City Council meeting advocating for those very issues. Next, I'd like to welcome Ayn Craciun. Ayn is an environmental advocate with the Climate Action Campaign and the Orange County Climate Coalition. As a leader of non-toxic Irvine, she successfully advocated for Irvine's organic landscaping policy. And I believe that I first met you also when you came to Costa Mesa and helped me to put forward when I was on the Costa Mesa City Council, put forward our non-toxic Costa Mesa landscaping policy. So she's traveling around to all the cities, making our community less toxic. She now champions community choice energy and climate action planning across Orange County. Next up is Michael Wellborn. Michael is a veteran of the County of Orange, where he served as a manager in public works, planning and development, and water resources programs. He now serves as my Orange County Parks Commissioner and a board member of the Friends, Harbors, Beaches, and Parks. And I first met Michael many years ago when I was working on the Blue Ribbon Committee to change our Santa Ana River Trail into a multi-purpose trail system and protect our parks and beaches down in that area. Okay, finally we have Dyana Peña. Dyana manages OC Coastkeepers education and coastal restoration programs, and she is also a member of the Sierra Club and hopes to inspire the next generation of environmental stewards. So I'd also like to just give a quick mention to Salem Afeworki, who wanted to be here today. She actually was Costa Mesa's first sustainability manager that they hired, but she had work conflicts. She now is working in the private sector, and we weren't able to have her join us. So I'm going to turn over, and before I do that, I just want to give a big shout out to Aviva Myers. Aviva, can you stand up? Aviva is on our team, and she recently graduated from Stanford with her master's in environmental policy, and she joined my office and is heading up our sustainability and climate action plan, and she helped to put this sustainability summit on today. So thank you, Aviva. All right, so let's get started. So let's start with Ayn. Can you give us an overview of where you think Orange County stands when it comes to climate action? And what positive progress do you see happening? Where do you think we're missing out?
Thank you. So, is this thing on?
Not yet.
Okay.
Try.
So thank you, first of all, Supervisor, for having us and for the opportunity. Should I wait?
Yes.
Hello. Great, thank you. All right, so yes, to the question of where Orange County is and how Orange County compares to other counties in the state, as you may know, Orange County is the third most populous county in the state of California. California being the 5th largest economy in the world. So at Climate Action Campaign, we tell people all the time that what happens in Orange County actually is very important. Orange County is also the center of the political universe, right, this year, and it seems like every year. So unfortunately, Orange County is actually perhaps the furthest behind in terms of climate action in the state. If you look at a list of counties in the state and those that have adopted climate action plans, Orange County is certainly the largest that has not adopted a county climate action plan. And actually, it's shameful in that regard. Orange County keeps company with counties like Fresno and Kern County that have not adopted climate action plans, much more rural counties. All the more, sort of urban counties, all the large counties have adopted them. And so that's a major problem in terms of our neighbors. Not at all. Sort of comparing to our nearest neighbors, Los Angeles and San Diego. Last year, of course, Los Angeles committed to zero carbon by 2030, has adopted a really historic building electrification policy to reduce emissions. San Diego, in terms of climate action planning, County of San Diego, there are 18 cities in San Diego. 17 of them have adopted climate action plans. Does anyone want to guess how many cities in Orange County have adopted climate action plans? It's actually 5. So 5, and I don't know. It's like the most recent one was adopted in 2015. Most of them, the measures in them were inadequate and have not been implemented. And so that's like, and there are 34 cities in the county, by the way. So that means only 14% of cities in the county have adopted climate action plans. Compared to San Diego County, that would be 95% of cities. And so this is something we're working on.
How many are in progress? Because there's more that are in progress.
3 that I'm aware of. That would be Anaheim, Irvine, and Laguna Beach. So, and Costa Mesa, I'm sorry, yes, they voted for it. I'm not sure where it is right now. But yes, thank you for that. So what that means is that the cities are in danger. We've heard a lot. Of course, there was historic, the Inflation Reduction Act that was adopted recently at the federal level. Very exciting, long-awaited federal climate policy. And because of the disarray of Orange County cities, they are not prepared to receive this funding. Similarly, at the state level, Governor Newsom just a few months ago adopted $54 billion, a $54 billion climate action plan for the state. Similarly, that money will be distributed through his Strategic Growth Council in competitive grant processes for the most part. Orange County cities and the county are not equipped to get that money because of our just terrible lack of climate planning. So that's a lot.
We're working on it, okay?
I don't know. Thank goodness we really do need climate leadership at the county level, because the county has funding and has resources to bring the cities together, and that's what it takes. That's what we've seen be effective in San Diego. We've worked for a long time in San Diego to help bring San Diego to where it is, but it also helps that there's the political will. That's a crucial ingredient.
So let me ask you this, because I think it's important that we highlight those cities that do have climate action plans. So can you name the cities?
So let's see, from north to south we have La Habra, which adopted I think in 2014. Santa Ana was 2015. We have Fullerton, did I say Fullerton? Oh, no, Fullerton was 2014, yeah. We have Laguna Beach was actually 2009. Wow. Which I'm wondering if this is all because of An Inconvenient Truth. Like maybe a lot of people went out and saw that movie and then they're like, hey, what are we doing anyway? So maybe that's what happened. But, and then we have San Clemente, which we're in the process of grading all the climate action plans for the city, like we may have said, and I have not quite taken a close look at San Clemente. But when was that San Clemente adopted? When? 2016. Okay, but they've not been implemented and their measures are inadequate. But yes, so hopefully, and then we're seeing delay from Orange County cities. Irvine has been talking about a climate action plan for 6 years now, and that thing is not even due to be finished until 2024. So that is really inadequate. And Anaheim is working on it, and I don't know, but yeah, there's so much that needs to be done.
All right, well, thank you. I know you're watching. And I'm going to have you next, Kathleen. So it's important that we do an inventory, and that's what our office has taken on the challenge of, is inventorying all the cities in the county to try to, look at best practices from neighboring counties to try to figure out what is it that we can do that's the Orange County model for climate action, and hopefully it'll become a model for the rest of the country. So thanks for your advocacy, and thanks for sharing here today. One thing, I want to move to Kathleen, and I want you to also share your thoughts on what we just heard from Ayn, and because I know you've been involved with the City of Irvine's Climate Action Plan, and you're a climate action professor. So help us understand, what do we need to do in Orange County, and what are the major roadblocks?
So we have a lot of improvement to be made, as I was demonstrating. Some of the positive things are that some of our cities are joining community choice energy programs that allow the cities to switch to 100% renewable energy for all the residents and businesses. We do need to make sure that our existing CCE is well run and actually delivers on these promises for environmental programs. Another thing that we really need to do is green the transportation grid. So if we look at the total amount of greenhouse gases produced by different areas in the county, transportation is one of the major contributors. And so one of the things that we can do is to help people switch over to EVs or plug-in hybrids. And that's because if you look at individuals, like individual families, and you look at the, what's the largest source of greenhouse gases those families put to the atmosphere, a lot of times it's driving. We drive a lot, especially in Southern California. And the average person, I think, drives enough each year to circumnavigate the globe. So if we're driving gas-powered cars, they're releasing a lot of CO2. Now, there are ways definitely where we can help people make that transition. And we want to do that because a lot of times the people who are maybe not as financially well off are stuck driving these old gas cars. They may not like that either. They want to switch to EVs, but they don't have the resources. Well, one of the things we can do is make sure that even people who live in condos and apartment complexes have places to plug their EVs in. Many renters and condo dwellers simply can't plug in an EV car, so it's out of the question for them. So we need to make sure those are installed. And then also, I would love to have programs where people get subsidies for buying new EVs. In Sonoma County, because of their Community Choice Energy Program, there are subsidies with the car dealerships there where people can walk.
Authentic way. We can't just sort of give these platitudes. We have to actually have very specific solutions. So one of the issues that I know you've been working on that's related to the EVs is our community choice energy and the Orange County Power Authority in particular in our county. So what role does the county play in this whole Orange County Power Authority in your mind?
So the county is a member of the Orange County Power Authority. So all the residents who are living in unincorporated areas next year will likely be switching over to renewable energy, depending on what the Board of Supervisors votes for. So the county is a member along with 4 other cities: Buena Park, Fullerton, Huntington Beach, and Irvine. This program was incredibly promising. Many of the people here in the audience advocated for it for years. It was considered a great victory when these cities pulled together to create Orange County Power Authority. Now, we do need some work on the Power Authority. Unfortunately, we have a CEO in there who does not have any experience in energy. Actually, he has now 1 year of experience in energy because he's been there 1 year. That's not really best practices for a community choice energy program. So I'm hoping that the Power Authority and the board will be able to make the necessary changes in the leadership to bring us to a sustainable.
You mentioned Sonoma County's Power Authority.
Yes.
What's the difference between that Power Authority and our Power Authority in terms of providing rebates for the residents, programs where people can buy cars? When I learned about the community choice energy, it was pitched as reducing our costs for energy as a household, as a business, and then providing a cleaner energy source. So what's the difference?
So the difference is that Sonoma Clean Power, they actually are generating a lot of revenue through their program. They have very experienced leadership who were able to buy renewable energy at a cheaper rate than fossil fuel energy. So that savings they can then divert into these energy programs like the EVs and things like that. Now, right now, OC Power Authority, they started in a tough time when renewable energy was relatively expensive, but unfortunately, I think they may not have bought the renewable energy at the right time and they ended up paying a premium. So right now, they're operating, they're doing everything they can to keep prices competitive with the fossil fuel prices, but it's very tough right now. They don't have that extra money, I think, to put into the environmental programs. And again, hopefully that will change. If we can get some leadership in there who can buy the energy at the right times and actually generate revenue, we can put all that into these energy programs.
So we often hear, I think, as policymakers, that we need to take some bold actions. We need to do things from a policy standpoint that would have massive change occur. But everyone can do something. I mean, I hear people say, oh, it's not going to matter if you stop using plastic at your house because it's really just so massive. Do you believe that? Do you believe that it doesn't matter the individual actions that each of us takes?
Well, I think it really does matter. I mean, look at everybody here. If we collectively change our, production of greenhouse gases, that adds up to a lot. And there are millions, maybe billions of people all over the globe who are also very concerned and are making their changes. I think about a story that I heard. There were 2 people walking down a beach and a bunch of sea stars had washed up on the beach, thousands and thousands of sea stars from a storm, and they were dying. And one of the people walking down the beach started picking up the sea stars and throwing them back in the ocean. And the person with them said, "What are you doing? There's no way that you can actually save all these sea stars." And that person said, "Well, I changed the world for that one sea star that I just threw in." It does add up. It makes a difference. And so I really do encourage people to do what they can.
So one last thought. What do you share with your students in terms of what is the most significant thing that you're hoping that they do to impact climate action in their jobs that they hopefully will get after they graduate college?
Well, I'm hoping that they will advocate for sustainable practices within their jobs whenever they can, but also make sure that they advocate for policies that they care about. I could spend the rest of my life avoiding single-use plastics, and we have solar panels, and so that really helps. And that will make a difference. But if I also advocate for changes in policies with the supervisor here, with Representative Porter, with Senator David, Assemblywoman Cottie Petrie-Norris, then that can really add up to a lot. So I think, advocating for policies whenever you can, that's a really good leverage point, a way to spend your time.
So I'm gonna switch it over, but I want to ask Ayn and Dr. Treseder. Cities have a variety of different sustainable practices within their local governments. What is has anyone in either of your groups done a inventory of all the cities and all the sustainable practices by each city in Orange County?
We are in the process of doing that. However, we are focused on climate action plans because a climate action plan is a blueprint for emissions reduction across the city to touch on all sectors and where emissions come from. And of course, emissions, which is a fancy word for pollution, right? Fossil fuel pollution is what's causing the climate crisis. So in order to stop the climate crisis, we need to stop dumping gasoline on the fire that is the climate crisis. And so yeah, cities, what we see in Orange County is a lot of performative, kind of greenwashed measures.
Give us an example of what you think is a performative greenwash measure. You can see she's a critic.
Let's see. Oh my goodness. Well, there was a resolution on the Irvine agenda last night where the council was congratulating itself for a recycling program that has been on the Irvine Environmental Committee agenda every meeting for the last year, where people put plastic water bottles in certain bags and then a truck drives around and picks them up. And so when we think about the climate crisis, we tend to, our minds go to those kinds of things. Like, what's a very small concrete thing I can do? We think of either very small concrete things we can do, or we think about like big scale federal change. But there is like a whole world in between those two where we can have a much larger impact. The United Nations says that 70% of emissions come from cities. 70%. Cities are causing the climate crisis. So we can change our cities. And so, but not to carry away the question, but
so here's my challenge to both of you, because you have the resources with your students. I think we need to have an inventory of what all the cities are doing, because I disagree with you. I think that cities are actually doing things that are impactful. It's not just performative. Maybe some cities are, but if you look deep into the operations, and I know Raja Satharaman, who's in our Public Works Department here in Costa Mesa, is here, and he's probably like cringing. If you look deep into the operations, a lot of cities are moving towards changing out their fleets, as an example, to electric or hydrogen fuel. They're moving towards eliminating plastic use for meetings. That's a big deal because cities go through a lot of plastic bottles. They're working towards maybe the products. I've been trying to advocate at the county we have shelters, we have parks, we have all these classrooms, we have lots of places where we use a lot of toxic chemicals because we think that's the way to clean things. And maybe there's a better way. Maybe we can clean with non-toxic chemicals. It may seem like not that impactful, but if you knew how many thousands of gallons that we use for cleaning fire stations and city halls and county buildings and especially our shelters, you would see that it could have a big impact. So I think we need an inventory. Okay, we're gonna move on. So thank you, because in a democracy, we need to push people to do things. Yeah. Okay, next up we have Michael Wellborn. So let's hear from you, and I want to hear about what are the top priorities of the Friends of Bays, Harbors, and Parks to advance sustainability. I'm particularly interested in your work on developing more green spaces in our communities. Can you give us a status update on those initiatives?
Oh, of course, Supervisor. So yes, my name is Mike Wellborn. I'm the president of the board of Friends of Harbors, Beaches, and Parks. We're celebrating our 25th year this year of being the umbrella activist organization for the environment in Orange County. And boy, we really appreciate all your donations because it helps get our board members, who are all activists with many plates in the air, out there doing good stuff. One thing that we do like to do is put out our green vision map That's available at our website, fhbp.org, and it highlights areas that have been preserved, areas that are at risk, and unfortunately some that we lose once in a while to development. We're not against development, but we are opposed to stupid development, and we've got some of that in Orange County. So anyway, you're welcome to check out our website at fhbp.org. What I wanted to talk about today, though, is a study that we started working on back in 2015, 2016. We got grant funding to look all around Orange County, all the communities, and what their open space areas and parks were doing and how much they had. And of course, many of you are familiar that a lot of North Orange County is very park poor and very little open space. And so we evaluated 3 specific communities, Stanton, Garden Grove, and Westminster, because their park scores were really low.
See, I consider that central Orange County.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll let the redistricting take care. So it's really important to look at open space for our communities because there's tons of studies, scientific studies about how important it is to have green space that's accessible to your community, so you don't have to drive 10 miles to get to a park. So it's really, well documented. North Orange County, Central Orange County is pretty full up developed. And my point is, yes, until COVID hit. And as we all know, a lot of businesses kind of went out of the, 2 of my favorites, in fact, went out of business. They closed up. They just left. There's a lot of strip malls around this area also struggling, if not fading away entirely. I think there's great opportunities to utilize those properties with the owners, collaboratively with funding from state and federal sources, to maybe modify those properties, keep commercial on the ground floor, have residential for 1 or 2 floors above, and have some green space in there as well. I think that's a great opportunity. We also have a ton of vacant lots right now that are sitting out there that cities, county can actually access federal, state funds to convert those and make mini parks. Let's get some.
Stanton, Gwinnett Park, Westminster, or Garden Grove, Westminster, they are also very densely lived spaces.
Yes.
And so they need more green space, more trees. And having us be a tree county USA, which I don't know if they actually have that, but I'm going to propose that we be a tree county USA.
That sounds great.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Now we're going to move to Dyana. And you work a lot with our youth, and I know that you have a lot of passion for our coast. So talk to us about the OC Coastkeeper's priorities. First, tell us about what OC Coastkeepers does and what the priorities are to advance sustainability, and what is the status of some of the initiatives that you're working on. And can you speak specifically to your work on offshore oil drilling and the oil spill?
Sure, thank you so much, and thank you for having me and welcoming me. I know that Gary Brown, our executive director, really wanted to be here, but wasn't able to be here, and so sent me instead, and I'm just very grateful for you all being so welcoming. So yeah, Orange County Coastkeeper is a nonprofit locally. Our office is in Costa Mesa, but we work all over the county to protect water resources. We really believe that all humans have the inalienable right to clean water, and I also believe that extends to our habitats and the species and everything that depends on those habitats. So we work with dynamic programs in restoration, education, advocacy, enforcement even, and sustainability programs that all are to uphold that mission, and really addressing it from intersectionally, because these issues, and especially the climate issues, are intersectional dynamic issues, and I really believe that our solutions should be as well. And so I think that by really centering the youth and other marginalized communities will really ensure that we are taking care of everyone. So especially, for Coastkeeper within that mission, I think that's why that really matters. And so, sorry, I think I might be getting I'll give an update on that a little bit. Yeah, I was like, I'll get a little bit on the initiative.
Yeah.
So, for example, restoration, we really approach that through science and really taking inspiration from nature to help us become more resilient community. But then on top of that, also including the community in these programs and inspiring them, and really realizing that we have to work together with our policy and our community to really make sure that we're approaching this in an intersectional way. So I know you said you wanted.
So what are some initiatives that you're currently working on?
So you asked about the oil
I'll ask
rigs.
it another way.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say you asked
I'm a
about the
lawyer
oil
for
rigs.
25 years. I keep asking the question. Eventually we'll get the answer.
I was like, I'm getting there, you asked multiple. I was like, the oil rigs, and so, decommissioning, that's one thing that we're focusing right now specifically to climate, aside from our restoration and resiliency efforts. And so another initiative is that decommissioning and urging our community to get involved with really pushing that forward expeditiously, because we really want to set that example of starting to wean ourselves off, and why not start here on our coastline in Orange County, where we really want to protect that beautiful resource of our coastline that we are all so proud of, that brings our economy. And so that's what we're really working on right now, and now switching over to also addressing it in from a policy standpoint. So that's why we really need our community to get involved with us. And so I'd like to invite you all. We have our beach cleanup on October 8th, and we will hopefully be doing something to commemorate and possibly continue that inspiration for action towards that decommissioning. So thank you again. Any other questions?
Well, I want to point out, so the Coastkeepers have been very helpful during the oil spill. Even as recently, there was somebody out near one of the rigs and saw something in the water, reported it. Everyone was at the ready, went out and checked it out. It turned out to not be anything. But they play a really important role in having eyes on the water. And so thank you for that. And we're going to hear later from our panel in the afternoon, after Congresswoman Katie Porter speaks, on the greening up of Orange County. We're going to talk about decommissioning. We're going to hear from Ernesto Medrano with the building trades, because we have to start that process of decommissioning, but we have to do it in a way that is protective of the workers at the same time. And I think that we need to act with more urgency on creating that plan. So thank you for your involvement in that. Okay, so we're almost back on track in terms of time. And so now I'm going to go down the row and ask one question before we go to the break. So here's my question. If there was one thing that you would advise the County of Orange to do to advance climate action or sustainability, what would it be? One specific thing. Oh, do you need the microphone? There you go. Ayn?
Thank you. Yes. So for the county, it would be a climate action plan that contains measures that meaningfully reduce the region's dependence on fossil fuels. And those come primarily from automobiles, right? But then also, perhaps even more problematic, from buildings and from the methane gas. We were talking about decommissioning an oil rig off our coast. Every day in Orange County, every new home that is built, and every new commercial building, all these buildings have fossil fuel infrastructure in them. We are installing new fossil fuel infrastructure all the time. This needs to stop. This is an essential, what's called a mitigation practice, a reduction of,
How does the county help with that?
The county could implement a building electrification policy that requires all new buildings in the county to be all electric. And this is very important, thank you, yes, because the IPCC report in 2018 said that it's really crucial for us to stop using methane gas. Methane is that little blue flame that comes out of your stove, that's gas. Natural gas, they like to call it, it's a euphemism. And that dramatically cutting methane gas use was critical to staying within this 1.5 Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit range that humans have always enjoyed. And so, because methane is 86 times more powerful than CO2 as a warming agent, essential. And Orange County cities and the County of Orange is nowhere near this. So the county, if the county could provide a leadership on this issue, it would be amazing, something that we really need, because no Orange County city has done it. 60 cities in the state have.
Let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you why they haven't done it. And this is a problem that we have to address because we have to get there. I just built an accessory dwelling unit for my grandmother and my mom in the backyard. And my mom wanted all electric appliances. Do you know how long it took to get an electric stove? Like 7 months. And so it is very hard, and it was expensive too. And so for them, living on a fixed income, like she really wanted to invest in the electric stove, so we did. But we have to create a supply chain that actually provides these products in a way that's quick and efficient and is cost effective. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to move in that direction quickly.
Yes, and so I love your mom, she's great. And that's why we need policies. And so fortunately our president and the Congress in signing this Inflation Reduction Act has done an amazing thing that is going to move the market and accelerate all those supply chains and will help address those issues. But we also need cities to adopt policies that help people get those appliances, folks who can't afford them, folks who suffer disproportionately from the pollution. Gas in homes is a leading source of indoor air pollution. A child in a home with a gas stove is 42% more likely, not 42 times, to have asthma than a child in a home with an electric stove. It's an environmental justice issue. And so that's why we need these policies, and we need sort of to step back to your larger question about what the county needs to do. The county needs to provide that leadership. The county has the funds to do it, right? To create a climate action plan and to convene the cities together. Climate impacts don't stop at city borders, of course, right? And so we need an approach that has been piloted in San Diego, has provided a fantastic example for the US and the world of a regional decarbonization framework. And they have a whole roadmap for it, something that could easily be adopted in Orange County if only we had the political will for it. So
we're working on it.
Yeah, appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. Okay, Kathleen, if you could provide one specific item that the county could do to help move us in a more sustainable future.
Well, at the county scale, I would vote for green mass transit. We have such bad traffic. So like you, Supervisor, I cross the county several times a day. I see the traffic. It is pretty bad right now. It's only going to get worse. We're still continuing to develop. We can only widen the roads so far, right? We can put in a light rail going across Orange County. Can you imagine how great that would be? And
Okay. Unfortunately, I'll pass this way. So we had that proposal. We would have been there. That was like 20 years ago when I first moved to Orange County. It was called the Center Line, and it got killed. And so here we are. Okay, Diana, give us one example, one specific item that you think that the county should take action on.
Well, I heard of other resources that could be coming to our area, and I know that we're behind, but maybe this is a really great opportunity for us to reach out to the communities to get together these plans. And so I think the county in your position has a really great opportunity to bring everybody together. And so I would just urge to really make sure that you're reaching out to all communities. I will just take the opportunity to say, and I didn't memorize the program today, but I was hoping to see some Indigenous leadership, so maybe thinking about that and any other communities, and really making sure that we're making the policies are keeping everyone in mind. But you did mention that with the workers and laborers and everything like that. So
we look at its building codes and policies related to development, because a lot of that stuff was written back in the 50s and the 60s, are very out of date. There's a great opportunity to really incorporate a lot of sustainable green building concepts into those codes.
But isn't that already required by the state?
Yeah, well, we're not there yet, are we?
But are we not incorporating the state requirements?
It's a glacial process, Supervisor, and it needs a little motivation because the glaciers are going away, right? So we really need to push it along and really get some new blood looking at some of those regulations.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to take a brief break. Thank you to our panelists. We really appreciate hearing from you. This first panel is about where are we and what are some groups doing. Our next panel is going to be addressing climate impacts, adaptations, and resilience. And we're going to have some incredible speakers for our next panel. So thank you.